Let's start with Michele. What did you bring, Michele?
Hi, I brought a picture of myself. I was trying to determine what would be good, and I've recently been going through several old pictures. And you see a picture of a cowgirl being very reflective on things and planning for the future. I think I started at a very young age trying to be very contemplative and forward thinking.
Contemplative cowgirl. And then you brought a second one.
Yeah, and this is one of the things I know we're talking about expanding the glass ceiling. And
Okay.
this is a piece of it from my freshman college days. And we
Okay.
can go into the details later.
Love it. Can't wait to hear more. And Pamela, what did you bring?
I brought this plaque. It says, if you're not failing now and then, you're not trying hard enough.
Not failing now and then. Yeah, I like that. And I feel like those moments happen even right now, probably.
All the time.
Something will happen. I hope that, we show that we're trying hard enough. I want to welcome the two of you to this podcast. For those of you who are tuning in to watch and listen, my name is Valerie Hope. Welcome to the podcast, Not Quite Strangers. I am your host, and this is an opportunity to bring two people together who are not quite strangers, have never met before this, and we bring up conversation that will hopefully build connection, inspire curiosity, and who knows, perhaps challenge the status quo. And I think you could already hear I have some interesting perspectives here on hand. I want to introduce you to my two guests first, how I know them. So I'll start with Michele. Michele and I played tennis together, and it's been how long has it been, Michele? Oh my goodness,
Maybe 5 years, something like that.
5 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we play at the same tennis center, and you're an amazing tennis player. You always keep my game sharp.
Likewise.
and one of the reasons that you and I connected about this podcast was because of some of the stories that you shared with me about your time working in the defense industry, and some of the work that you've done, the kind of projects you've been on, and the types of experiences that you've had. And I know you're moving into a new phase in your career, so we're looking forward to hearing more about that in a moment. And Pamela, I invited Pamela because you are a student. You are a student. You weren't, but you're in our leadership communication course a few months ago, and you had such a cool presentation about women in STEM, girls in STEM specifically. And you shared your passion for what that means and what it means to you and what you want to bring to the world. I was like, oh my gosh, I know exactly who I want to introduce you to. So you have two different generations, two different backgrounds, but also working towards the same thing. So welcome to the podcast, both of you. And Michele, you can keep yourself off mute if that works best. I know we might have some interesting background noise, but no big deal.
Okay.
So first question I like to ask my guests, why say yes to being introduced to a perfect stranger on video?
Well, for me, I just like meeting new people, and I've been curious about getting into podcasts myself, and so I think this is a good experience. I have a lot to learn from you, Valerie, and I'm excited to get to meet somebody new.
Awesome, cool. I'm glad for that, and I'm happy to share anything I know. and Pamela, what about you? Why did you say yes?
Likewise, it's like I'm always down to try new experiences. I've actually never been in a podcast, so I was like, okay, this is new, and meeting new people is always fun and an exciting adventure. So I am definitely interested, and especially after talking to you, Valerie, you're like, you meet so many interesting people because of your job. So I'm like, this has got to be interesting.
Well, Well, the good news is that I'm not the interesting one here. You guys are. I like to introduce interesting people together. So, well, let's just delve into it right now. You know, the objects that you brought to share with us. Let's start with Michele. What was it about that picture? You have this contemplative cowgirl. This was you, right? At what age did you say?
I don't know. I think I was about 4.
4 years old. And here, I'll bring it up again so everybody could see it. So tell us, what is this 4-year-old thinking, or what was it that had you bring this particular shot?
I don't know. I just really liked it, and I wish I had that outfit today. You know, in a size that fit me. But I was very casual, very relaxed, and who knows what I was thinking, you know, as a 4-year-old. But I was the oldest of 2. I didn't have my sister yet. And so I had to be very resourceful as far as what I was going to do when I played and that type of thing. And I guess I had a good imagination. I imagined I'd want to be a cowgirl. And but if you take note, and in this particular outfit, it's not the girly girl type outfit, which I did have. I enjoyed playing the cowgirl and the more rustic kind of Annie Oakley type piece as well. And then when I found the picture again, I went, well, isn't that curious that I'm now living in Texas? and here I am in the Western kind of world. I grew up in Pennsylvania, so I thought that was interesting.
You were already foreshadowing that you would be in cowboy country.
Yes.
And then you also mentioned this other picture, and it has to do with, well, tell us what's going on here.
Okay.
Are you stealing something, or what's going on?
No, and this kind of leads into the glass ceiling part of what we're going to be talking about. It seems like everything that I've done throughout my life, and I could give myriads of examples, have caused me to strategize, develop things, be a pioneer in things. How can I do things better, or how can I even begin things? In the early 70s, which now you're going to get an idea of my age, I was in the first class of women to Lehigh University. We had 100 women and 3,300 guys on campus. And I organized a powder puff football team that we played against our rival school. And we raised money, and I organized this in order to raise money for multiple dystrophy. And, you know, it is like, you know, I don't know, there was always something and a reason behind doing things. And well, the guys did this, so why can't we do this? We just didn't take things at second best. And so there were a lot of incredible opportunities to be able to start up and begin going forward. So that's a piece.
So is this the Powder Puff League here? Is that what that is? You hold that football?
Yeah.
This is you,
Yeah.
right?
This is me. It's so what you normally have when a football team comes out in the field, they go through like a tunnel of people. The guys that are standing there were cheerleaders. And so we were coming out of the tunnel, and I was a co-captain carrying the football. And right behind me, with the lady smiling, she was the other co-captain, Missy Mundell. So it was a lot of fun, and for a good cause.
That's interesting. Thank you. You remember Missy Mundell? Isn't that funny how we remember like only the first and last name of people that we maybe don't even see anymore?
Well, actually, we still get together, and it's amazing. We've made a lot of good friendships along the years.
Good old Lehigh. All right. And Pamela, tell us about your plaque. What was that meaningful to you?
So this plaque there's like a lot of layers. So you see that it's in a color of blue and a little bit of gray, which is actually me and my husband's favorite two colors combined. So it's just been a motto of mine for a very long time, just because it just seems like there's a lot of pressure, at least for me, growing up with very strict parents, to be perfect all the time. You got to get the straight A's, like, and going to like, you know, Berkeley for undergrad, I was also obsessed about getting like the best grades possible. And even like going as a grad student now, still obsessed with being perfect in every different way. And it kind of trickles into my personal life and my job life. And it's a kind of a motto that I have to keep reminding myself of when I do fail. It's not, I have to be grateful for that experience as well. Because I spend a lot of time being grateful for all positive things that happen. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I accomplished this, and this. And you learn a lot from the positive experiences, and you're grateful for them. But it's also important to take the time to be grateful for the negative experiences that you go through, because those are also lessons, and being present in them, instead of just like, okay, I'm sad now, let me just not be sad. I'm actually, no, let me like be sad and be present in my sadness. And just kind of like appreciate this moment as much as I'd appreciate any positive moment.
So that begs the question: what can we be? What can we celebrate? What failure can we celebrate today?
So many failures.
Pick your favorite one.
So I mentioned earlier when we were prepping. That, you know, I'm 7 months pregnant and trying to do a full-time job right now and be in school full-time and then do house construction and be 7 months pregnant. Sometimes everything comes to a head and things slip here and there. Like my latest failure that I'm grateful for is that, you know, I didn't get to study as much that I wanted to for my finance exam, but, you know, I prioritized what was important to me to learn in grad school, because I don't think I'll be going back to school after this, and just really honed in on what was meaningful to me and being grateful for that experience.
Awesome. And how did the exam go?
I don't know yet.
Okay. All right. So the failure, what's the failure part? Just that you didn't have enough time to vote. Okay,
as opposed to like, you know,
personally.
I know I didn't get an A, but, you know, spending as much time, like normally I would have spent as much time as I can to like know all the material and just like letting go of just having to be perfect and just, you know, taking it in, appreciating the lessons that I'm getting from my professors and just honing in on what is meaningful to me and what will serve me the most.
That's interesting. Okay, got that. So it's really you, and it's interesting. I think so much of the mindset around what's failure and what's success really lies in here. Is not necessarily the objective measure. Oh, you passed the test or you didn't pass the test, as much as, oh, I know I could have done better, or I know I could have tried more, or I know that I could have, you know, done something differently. Fascinating. I'm curious about, as you guys were listening to what each other, you know, your experience and what you brought, or the life lesson, what stood out to you as you were here listening to each other, if anything?
Okay, I'll go. What was interesting about what you said, Pamela, and what you shared about failing, why do you feel that you may not have tried hard enough in things that you may have failed?
Well, so I actually talked about this a little bit with Valerie. And it was one of my speeches that I gave leadership. Like, I feel like sometimes I need to give myself permission to have mental breaks, which I don't really embrace as much. For example, like I made a speech on having more mental grit. Like, I hope that I can have more mental grit so I don't have as many good days and bad days. But just taking a step back and just understanding that if I don't purposely and consciously take a break, my body will take it for me.
Right.
Especially now while I'm pregnant. Like, I'm used to just being able to, you know, stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning doing whatever it is I need to do for work and school and just like really grind it out. And being pregnant does not allow that. Being pregnant, your body will be like, nope, you're sleeping now.
Today.
I don't care what you were planning to do. You were sleeping now. And I'll find myself in the middle of like falling asleep with a book on my face, or like, so it's, you always feel like, I think with higher achievers, you probably get, like you guys on the call feel that sometimes you just want to do your best and you always feel like you could have done more to be better.
Nah, no, not yet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I get that.
Thank you.
Michele, I'm curious, what had you ask that question?
Well, I was, it's probably the higher achiever part of me as well. I feel like there's always something more that I could have done, and maybe I didn't reach this goal, and what could I have done differently? What should I have done differently? Are there other people I should have been more forward with what my plans and things were? Working in the aerospace industry, there are very few women, number one, and the aerospace industry that I was in defense, is European backed, and the Europeans are a little bit more behind in some areas with respect to women in high level positions. So it was kind of a choice between getting an exceptional job done and bringing my team up to doing what needed to happen and focusing on that and doing an exceptional job there, or do I do what other predominantly guys have done, and be in leadership space and constantly, doing things that not bad things, but just being constantly in front of management and forcing themselves to just have face time, when I felt that doing a good job and an exceptional job was what was important. And actually, I just recently retired, and the president of the company congratulated me and had exceptional things to say. And they said, "Oh, the company wouldn't have been able to do a lot of the things if it wasn't for you." And I'm going like, "Gosh, thank you." It would have been nice to know about it earlier, or have the opportunity, I think, to take the next step.
So you'd not heard that from that person before until you retired?
Not exactly in those words. He's and I don't want to get into too many details because, but yeah, not in those words.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it sounds like it would have benefited you to feel even more acknowledged and appreciated throughout.
Yeah. Well, I think what I was really, I was in the highest position for my role that's in the company. In other words, they would have had to create an executive level position for me in order for me to go forward, or so I reached my plateau. I reached the glass ceiling in that particular company. But so the glass ceiling is still there. In some respects, it's doing much better than what it had before, and that's why I'm interested to hear from Pamela in the role that she's in and what she sees. And I don't know if there's something that I can do to say or help, but except to encourage you to keep putting out there your goals that you want to achieve, and to get exposure with people that can help you get there.
Ooh, I have a follow-up question. You said you didn't put yourself or have FaceTime with the executive team before. Would you do that now? Like if you could go back and tell yourself, hey, do this,
I can't. I've been trying to think of the words and in a politically correct way of voicing them, but uh, you know, I didn't suck up to the leadership. You know, I knew that I could constantly be putting my face there. I mean, and they knew and I had an open door. It wasn't like I couldn't go in anytime that I wanted to. But I don't know, maybe a lot of people who got ahead uh, maybe had made those connections. Would I do it differently? Probably not, knowing me, because that's not me. You know, it says in the Bible, the steps of a righteous man or woman are ordered by God, and so I've had some incredible uh, moves in my career that have happened because of I think my faith and open doors that have come about. I mean, they're things that people that have been open doors that no one could have opened on this world. And so maybe it wasn't something that I was supposed to do, and I should be happy. I'm disappointed, but on the other hand, I'm the president of my own company, so you know, I have my own corporation of and right now it's in the transition of going into something different than what we had been doing previously, and we've had several facets of what I've been doing, but right now I'm kind of enjoying doing one of the things that you're trying to figure out as well in your environment is I'm trying to figure out how to relax, and you know, which is one of the reasons that I'm here in Colorado, and I almost stressed out about this uh, podcast because I'm going like, well, do I cancel it? I'm, you know, because I made plans to go to Colorado after I told Valerie, yeah, okay,
Mm.
yeah, yes, I'd love to do it. And I said, I'm going to be on vacation, you know, am I going to be able to do it? But I'm here and I'm excited.
You're here. Well, I'm
Yeah,
glad that you
right.
didn't back out. And it would have been perfectly fine for us to reschedule. Like it's yeah, there's days aplenty to choose from. But I do appreciate you being here. You know, it's funny. I want to bring up something that you mentioned, and Pamela, you asked about was this idea of having more face time versus like just grinding it out, getting the work done. You know, it's interesting because literally last night, even prior to thinking about this conversation at all, I reflected, and I can't remember why or how it came up, but I literally reflected on every single opportunity that I've had in my life, my career came from having had FaceTime with people.
Yeah.
You guys know me a bit. I'm a relationship person. I love building and getting to know people, which is why I have a podcast about building relationship. But I literally mapped from the moment I graduated from high school. My first job was with an organization called Up With People. So international program for young adults who would travel a whole year and basically live with host families, perform, and do a musical. And what was interesting is that most of the staff members in the organization came from having had the experience as a participant, right? And then they moved into a staff position. I got it because my former drum major from high school and I ran into each other at the post office in college, and I was like, I'm looking for a job. He was like, I know somebody. Mm-hmm. And so mm-hmm. I got in and I worked for 5 years with that organization. With Hyatt, I worked with Hyatt 14 years. I got into Hyatt, although I didn't know that I knew they were hiring for a training manager, but I at the time was working at the Chamber of Commerce, and I was privy to getting all their job postings, and I would just send it out to the world. And it so happened when I saw this posting, I picked up the phone and I was like, Lisa, the employment manager, I'm interested in this. And out of all of the hundreds and hundreds of applicants, my resume would not have probably been sorted because I didn't have the things that they were mapped. The digital scanning was not mapped to the type of content that I had, but I had a relationship with them. They knew me, they participated in my committees. And that's how I got that job. Every single promotion I've gotten for the same reason. So I guess my question is, and you kind of pointed to this, Michele, how do we play to our strengths and still achieve the level of success that we feel we're aiming for, or that we deserve, or that we, would fulfill us?
Yeah. And I think I don't mean to say that that I haven't built relationships with people, and really a lot of the jobs that I have were due to relationships that I've built. So okay, that's going to stop now. And the
you're censoring yourself a lot in this conversation, aren't you?
Yeah. The difference is that I feel is guys have a way of, gosh, I don't know, taking it to a little bit more of an extreme and getting into people higher up into their face, and constantly being there. And I'm not I'm not of that nature. I'm not constantly doing those things. But on the other hand, I feel it's important to constantly prep things and write things down and present them, and present different ideas, new ways of doing things, better ways. And it's like I feel I bring a solution to problems rather than constantly saying I'm the best person for this, I'm the best person.
Tooting your own horn.
I haven't been good in tooting my own horn. That's probably it.
Pamela, why are you laughing? What's going through your mind?
It's just funny. I just feel like I hear this a lot. Like I actually spoke to an executive at Intel probably a couple of weeks ago for just one of the school events with the executives, and she said the same thing. She's just like, or very, very similar. She like realized, it was my standard question. I was like, how does someone like me in the trenches get to a position like you, up high? And she was like, you just have to be able to really showcase your work, and it does feel like you're tooting your own horn. And it doesn't feel genuine. It feels kind of dishonest, and it kind of feels fake. But that's the way she got noticed. And I'm just laughing because I'm hearing it now again.
Yeah. And I guess it's a fine line, but it's not entirely a bad thing. I think you need to pick the manner that works best for you, and you need to feel comfortable in how you do it, and don't stretch yourself, but don't do something that's entirely uncomfortable either. It's kind of like, in a way, it's a little bit like pregnancy. I've not experienced it, but my nephew's wife is in her third pregnancy right now, and I babysat for her two little girls just yesterday, as she had an opportunity to take a nap. But it's a kind of a stretching. You're out of your comfort zone, but it's going to be all right, and you kind of push through it, and you can push through it as well.
Yeah, it goes back to, it actually reminds me of the conversation I had with Valerie a couple weeks ago about authenticity, right? We talked at length about being an authentic leader, and I one of the things I was harping on is I'm frequently told to smile in my presentations, which did not feel authentic to me. Like, why do I need to smile? Which I talked to Valerie about. It's like, what if I don't feel like smiling? What if it's a serious topic? But being authentic sometimes means that you smile when you don't feel like it, especially when you're trying to communicate that this is something that is worth smiling about. And maybe to that end, part of authenticity in trying to be a leader, you showcase what you've done even if you don't feel like it.
Right. Right.
Well, you know, this is fast. I love this conversation and where it's going. So I think what needs to be defined is really, what is authenticity? I think authenticity doesn't necessarily mean doing what we feel. Oh my gosh, if I did what I felt, I could be in jail. I could get into, I would not be talking to some people because we'd be in some argument or whatever, right? I think that there's something to be said for what does authenticity mean? And I think from my experience, and I'd love to hear your take on it, right? From my experience, being authentic is acknowledging that we are perfect, we're whole, we're complete, like as a being, like a human being on this planet, no matter what the external like circumstances might be. We might have a disability, we might have challenges with different relationships in our life, we might be underemployed, we might not be healthy, like all of those things aside, that all of us came here for a purpose. And I don't know, for me, when I feel most authentic is when I'm aligned to my purpose. Not necessarily, but I get that there's some external pressures or expectations, right, that might call to question whether I'm being authentic or not. But I'll tell you, I remember, and just to give a demonstration, when I started podcasting 2.5 years ago, I had a different podcast at the time. I started it out because I thought, as a coach, it'd be great to like live coach some people. People will come on Zoom and I'll coach them. And then that one day that no one showed up to be live coached, I was like, so do I still talk? Like, I don't like that as much. I love interactions.
Right.
And my mom recommended I started inviting guests. I'm like, well, then I won't get to talk about what I want to talk about. And I want to talk about my own stuff or coach people. And but I gave that up. I had somebody come on, but I started to notice that, if I actually have conversations with people that I enjoy, or topics that I enjoy, or people who I enjoy, then boom, it all aligns.
Right.
So I have to create my world in such a way that I can be authentic. And I think the challenge is that we sometimes plug ourselves into spaces that don't align with our purpose, don't align with our gifts, don't align with our personality or whatever. And therefore it does sometimes force us to act out of authenticity. I don't know. Where does that land for you guys? What are you thinking about this? Just jump in.
Okay, I always seem to go first, but so I would. Pamela, why don't you come up with something? I have something to say, but
Oh yeah, it was a very deep question. I always need like a couple minutes to like formulate my thoughts.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, it kind of reminds me of, and I don't mean to go preachy, but there's a story in the Bible about David and Goliath. And I kind of, and but it feeds into what you shared, Pamela, about if you're not failing now and then, we're not trying hard enough. David had this opportunity to face the giant, and the king, Saul, wanted to put all his armor on top of him, which is what happens a lot in the corporate world today. Either leadership or managers want to put their armor on us. And for me, it doesn't work that way. I mean, I have to be authentic for me and be able to do my things. And a lot of times what I'll do in my suit coats, I'll put some stones. Like this is like a blue stone that I put in, and I will put 5 smooth stones in my pocket. And sometimes I forget they're there. And if I have to speak in front of people, give a presentation, a lot of times I'll put my hands in my pocket and I'll go, oh, well, I have this smooth stone. I know that I can slay giant because I've done it before in a different manner, and so I might not have maybe totally killed the situation before, but what I did previously gave me confidence in order to be able to do what I had to do, and I was authentic for me and not playing a role that someone else was trying to make me play.
So Michele, for those who might have lost the meaning of the stones and David and Goliath, could you just give us a short synopsis?
Well, there's a story in the Bible about a shepherd boy who saw his brothers in battle, and there was a huge giant that the whole army of Israel was afraid to tackle. And David came to give his brothers some food, and he said, well, I can tackle him. And they took him to the king, and the king said, he gave him a chance. I don't know why he would have even considered giving a young shepherd boy that didn't have any skills in battle a chance, but he gave him a chance to defeat the enemy. And David went in with his, after he said, no, I don't want any of this armor or anything else. I have what I need. I have my sling and 5 smooth stones in a pouch. And he picked up one, put it in the sling and slung it around and around, and then threw it at the giant, and hit the giant in the middle of the head. And he fell down dead, and David took the giant's sword and chopped his head off, and they won the battle after that. And so it's like a lot of battles in our life. We have got to take what we have in our hand and not be worried about other things that we may not have. But we learn from the things that we may have failed at or been successful with previously, and we try in our own way of doing it, and we get boldness and confidence because of what we've already done.
Yeah, use what you have. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Pamela, what's on your mind about that?
Yeah, it's so funny because I always feel like Michele has way more stories just in like the Rolodex.
She's been around for a little bit,
Just like, I don't have a story for that.
I'm gonna challenge that. So
A story in the Rolodex. Just I could see, like, if you're listening, you can't see her mind working. Like, you can see the cogs turning. It's like, which one am I going to use? Yeah, I do feel like what you said, Valerie, and just kind of added to what Michele said, is just making sure you're aligned with your purpose is really valuable. And we've been doing a lot of like self-branding exercises and just making sure that you understand who you are and what is off-brand to you. Just kind of like they talk about what feelings do you want people to come away with when they talk to you, or what you want people to know about you, like 3 words that describe you when you come in contact with people. And I often use that as like my kind of North Star of when I'm starting to feel a little like, unhappy in my situation, or just kind of like, or even every once in a while you have your little check-ins with yourself, like, am I still following my purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Is my purpose still the same? Like, has any new experiences changed my point of view on the world? And if so, how and why, and what does that mean for me?
What are your 3 words, Pamela?
Actually, I had a problem with this exercise. I told the instructor that because I didn't feel like words like really captured what I was trying to be, or at least just words, because words have, there's always context to words that you need to add and flavor. So I was like, okay, it's more about the feeling that I want to leave people with. So the first one, the first feeling that I wanted to leave people with was, oh my God.
Like, oh, that's a feeling?
Yeah, like, like a surprise, like, oh my God.
In a good way, or
like you're surprised. You're surprised. whatever I'm doing, I'm surprising you. It's a fun surprise.
Okay.
Because fun is important to me. It's like being fun, like making the situation fun is really important to who I am and what the, brand I want to bring into the world, regardless, like anything, even finance, even accounting, I'm going to want to make it fun.
Yeah. Got that.
And it's surprising, oh my God, kind of way. Like we're excited.
That's cool. What other emotion?
The second one is gas. Little snappy there.
Yes. All right. What is that one about?
It follows up the, oh my God. Because it's like, oh my God, we're having fun, and we're like having fun in a very like positive, affirming way, like life affirming way. Because you just, it's part of the brand and my personal brand that I want to make sure that when people go into the workforce, like you're gonna get the highest caliber of work that I can bring, but you're also gonna have fun.
Nice.
And it's gonna be fun in a life affirming way.
Is there another one?
Yes, the third one actually, like I can't even remember the third one because I couldn't think of another one at the time. But it's something, it's just on those lines of like, you're just gonna, like, it's gonna be a high caliber, like, okay, probably, I think it was okay. It was like, okay, but it was like a little nod, like one of these, okay.
Like, oh my gosh, yes, okay.
Yeah, it was one of these. I think that like, it was about a year now since I did this one, but it was an okay, because it's the same thing where it's like, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get what, what you've asked for, but you're also gonna get something fun and life affirming with it.
Yeah. So what you're sharing, Pamela, reminds me of a friend of my husband's that comes over, and he's always very energetic and very fun background, and he is very has lively conversations, and he'll go, "You feel me? You feel me?" It's like what I see from you is you want people to share what you have.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is about making sure the journey is as fun as possible. Like I tell my coworkers, like every Monday, like I'm like, happy Monday, I'm so happy to see you. And they're like, wait, why? It's Monday. And I'm like, because now I get to hang out with my friends. Like, it just like our group, it just feels like, oh, I'm just doing a project with my friends, and we're working hard together to make sure it's the best project, but we're still like having fun.
Okay.
I think that's awesome.
Pamela, are you in finance now, or are you in another role?
No, I'm a product manager actually. So I work at Electronic Arts, and I work a lot on video games, like strategic initiatives across different video games. So it's an industry that is focused on fun. So it felt very natural for me to gravitate towards that fun and entertainment.
I'm curious about how you, because I love this idea of bringing emotions. Like, what emotions would you like to evoke in people when you're there? I don't know, Michele, do you have some that come to mind? I know you've retired, but you're doing your own thing now, and you're probably in other spaces, but what would you say now?
I don't know. That's one that I may need to think about for a little bit.
Well, noodle on that.
Okay.
If I had to choose emotions, I have words. See, I have not thought about emotions. So this is actually quite a great exercise. I think the emotion I would want is peace, like for people to feel like peaceful, like grounded, oh, she's got this. Maybe, no, I'm going to do like the Pamela, yours are not quite emotions. They're more like words that evoke, that have some emotional tone to it. So I like for people to feel like, oh, she's got this, that one. And I'd like for people to go, yay, Valerie, like, hi, cool, I get to hang out with Valerie, or we got to do something, or right, there's something about whatever the experience with them, the being engaged in that, whatever that activity, people feel like pumped, right? And what else? Like, ooh.
Wait, about what is it?
Like intrigued, like, oh, I not thought about that, or ooh, that's interesting. Like those are the words that I would like.
that ooh I would use when like someone like presents a delicious dessert in front of me. Like,
there we go. I can't present delicious desserts. At least not something that I wouldn't buy. But yeah, I think what was my first one? Now I forgot. This is brand new for me, Pamela. Don't judge.
You think about brands, when you think about branding exercises, people just put words, but people have so many different connotations to words.
Yeah.
People put different emotions to words.
Oh, got this. Yes. Oh yeah, mine was like, yeah, you got this. Mine is the you got this, yay, and ooh. Those are my three. This is cool. Michele, did you come up with any? Or do you need some time?
Well, it's like I like that you got this. That's important. And I was just thinking about my team that I had for the last 12 years when I was at Airbus. I always told them, I guess I wanted them to feel safe and reaffirmed in their position. So I think a safe emotions and that type of thing. But there was a bit of fun that I felt that we needed to have as well. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, one event that we had, and I can't remember, from time to time we had employee events to build morale and things like that. And I got, for my team, I led our contracts organization for government contracts. And so I got shark hats for everybody. And because you have in contracting, you have to be very sharky, if you will, in order to do the best for the company. And we went into the room where people were congregating, singing the Baby Shark theme song, Baby Shark. And I think even though my job is very serious and there were a lot of things that had to be done, you have to have fun too, mm-hmm. So I think the fun piece of it is so very important.
But how would they have expressed that fun? Because I think it's interesting, at least Pamela and I have a different word associated with the fun, right? Yours was like, yes, right? Yes. And mine is like, yay. What would be your fun phrase, Michele, or word?
The thing that I thought of was Baby Shark.
Baby Shark.
Different categories of fun. Fun is really
maybe no one else in the company understood it, but everyone in my team did.
You got it.
And we I think I gave my shark hat to one of the people that was in the team when I left the company.
Nice. All right, so fun. What else? You got two more.
She talked about like the feeling of safety, right?
Safety.
But we didn't find like a word of that. It's just like, like how do you describe the feeling of a hug? You get the comfort of a hug.
Yeah.
Safety and warm.
Gosh, I don't know how you say that in an emotion. I don't know how do you say that in an emotion? I don't know.
The safety part. Safety part could be comfort or
like an exhalation,
Oh, that feels good, or thank you. Like grateful, like gratitude, it almost sounds like, maybe, or we don't have to like
I don't know.
Analyze this.
I can take it for homework assignment if I need to.
You have homework after the podcast. You have to come up with 3. You have 2 so far. No, I think is fascinating. You know, one of the reasons that I wanted the two of you to connect specifically is because clearly you're in different phases in your career journeys, and you've faced some similar challenges. And I thought, man, that's got to be interesting. You know, at what point in time does it shift? Obviously, you know, Michele, you mentioned you were one of 100 women in your university class out of 33, and there are 3,300 men. So, boom, you were like, you had a shard of the glass ceiling with you when you were a freshman. Pamela, you're in a whole different generation right now, and you're in an industry that's also quite male dominated. So I'm curious about, for you, what's it like to be a woman in the video game industry? What drew you to it, and what's the experience been like? Whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah. So for me, it was always, so video games is something that I just like, I don't feel like I was meant to do anything else. Like, it was something that I like, you see pictures of me and my dad. I've been playing video games as long as I can remember. So it just, like, when I told my parents I was going into video games, they were just like, and like, it wasn't a surprise to them. Like, nobody was surprised. I was surprised. No one else was surprised. So I love the idea, like, video games have, for me, a truly captive audience. Like, you hear, like, theories of film where you're in a movie theater and that's a captive audience. I don't think that's a captive audience. Like, video games, like, have a way of just holding you for hours at a time, and you don't even notice that the time is flying. Yeah. And it's a great medium for, like, really putting yourself in a protagonist's shoes you would not normally be able to experience. Like, I oftentimes get to experience what it's like to be like a man on, like, a mission in, like, a zombie apocalypse, or I get to experience what it's like to be like a British woman who's exploring the ancient Nordic artifacts, which is something that I don't get to, like, and the directors of games are the same caliber of directors of movies. So you really, like, get to experience someone else's point of view and actually make choices for them, which I love about that aspect of games and the storytelling, and just kind of bringing your audience along to this person's journey, and sometimes even making, like, less than moral decisions in the game, but you're like, oh my gosh, I'm, like, stuck between, two wrongs, and it's really, like, really, affecting you because you're living the life of this character, which, like, you can't really do in movies. You're taken along for the ride, and you're watching. With video games, you are the ride. You are the person making the choices for a completely different, life. So it's something that I've always loved and always wanted to be a part of this industry. It's very fun, like me. I need to be a part of industry where I can make any kind of nerdy jokes and people get, like, I can make a dragon joke in the office and 5 people will jump in and continue to make a dragon joke with me, or whatever. Whatever, just roll with the punches of whatever joke that I'm making that is so esoteric or nerdy. So I really feel like culturally that is the space that I belong. So as far as gender goes, I feel like everybody else reminds me that I'm the only female. When I go into the office, I'm really excited about whatever it is project that I'm doing. And then someone else will be like, oh, you know what, I used, like, I told the other day, I was saying I was going on leave, and my coworker was like, oh, how long are you taking paternity leave? I'm like, paternity? I'm not a man. Why would you say that? and then like the person actually had to Google the term paternity leave, and was like, oh yeah, that is only for men.
wait a minute. Okay, no, I'll just let that one
and
go.
Then, like, I was like, like, little things like that will just, like, remind me that that I'm the only female there, and so it usually something that's just in the back of my head until someone else reminds me of that. Like, it's not something that I think about personally.
Right.
It's fascinating. So how many people do you work with? Like, when you say you're the only female, like, out of how many?
My direct team is probably about, like, 30 people. but I have a larger org. But in the 30 people, I'm the only female.
Got it.
You
In the
know,
larger org, there are other women, but just in your team.
yeah, it's not as much. And it's not, they're very welcoming and inclusive. So I'm not too, I don't think about it too much, but then every once in a while, like the outer world will just be like, you know what, we need to get more women in games. Like, we do need to get, that's right, we do. Like, or if there's like, you know, like a new hire, like we're hiring a person and everyone's trying to hire their friends. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is a great opportunity to actually expand the network of people who we look at. You know, maybe we can look at just purely the skill sets, not the fact that they, you know, have previous experience in the game industry, which is important. But, you know, sometimes like I just need someone who can do Excel and SQL very well. Why do I need to find only a person who has Excel and SQL and game industry experience? Like, there's plenty of people we can bring in that will give us a different perspective and a new, fresh take on things.
That's interesting. And Michele, I'm going to come to you in a second, but Pamela, I want you to share, if you remember, it's been a few months now. Do you remember your presentation in the MBA class that you did for us?
I had like 3 presentations. Which one?
The one about games for girls to help them get into STEM.
Oh, yes. So I've given this speech a few times now publicly. Grace Hopper was like the most notable one, and I've given it to the University of Illinois. And the gist of the speech is basically how we can get more females into STEM through the lens of video games. And the speech kind of like, so I'll probably not do it justice because I'm like summarizing it. Talks about like a study that the University of Glasgow did with high schoolers, where they like followed high schoolers and through high school and through their careers, and found out there's a correlation between high schoolers that had spatial reasoning skills and going into STEM. And when they looked at like how these people got spatial reasoning skills, and basically what spatial reasoning is the ability to like mentally solve 3D puzzles. You know, like for example, a wild example is if I look at a Rubik's Cube and I could solve it, you know, with just my mind, instead of actually like messing with it. It's like, that's a wild example. Yeah, not many people can do that, but that's just an example of what a spatial reasoning skill is.
It's kind of like the movie Queen's Gambit.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, so being able to just solve things in your mind. And so they looked at people who had this skill, and they found out that this is not something they teach in school. They teach it, like you learn these skills through the activities that you do in your spare time. So these students who got to do things like play with Legos or solve puzzles, like, or did some woodworking or played video games, had more spatial reasoning skills. So I honed in on the video game portion and just kind of like, you know, threaded it through my presentation, because, you know, oftentimes we see there's a stigma of playing video games and people don't know why there's a stigma. I mean, there's plenty of, you can attribute to like, oh, you know, I've heard some articles about how it's bad, but I feel guilty letting my kids play, but there's not really like, you know, we're still trying to figure out exactly what it is. Like video games have a very unique way of, like if something goes wrong in a video game, people tend to blame the industry as opposed to like this particular specific thing that went wrong. So if like, you know, something is going, if you're on the internet, say on any kind of social media chat, and somebody sends you a lewd picture, you will more likely blame that person for sending you the lewd picture, not the platform. But if that happened in video games, you're like, oh, you know, someone sent me a lewd picture in this video game. It's because of the video games, not the person. So there's a weird PR problem that video games are having, and trying to like really figure out what is going on there.
I thought that was fascinating. And the reason I asked you to share that again is because I think this idea of, and you mentioned it in your presentation about the kind of toys that are introduced, right? And at the age of those toys. And you mentioned, I think there's an image that you shared about where do you find spatial reasoning games like Legos and puzzles and stuff like that. And you tend to find them, if I'm not mistaken, and generally in the boys' aisle, right? When people would shop for for games, right?
Yes. Yeah. yeah, that was like the middle part of the presentation, which was like a 30-minute presentation that I always try to condense into like 5 minutes.
Hi.
Yeah, it's so if you think about a traditional toy store, like a Toys R Us when they were still open, if you imagine yourself walking down the girls' aisles and you walk down the boys' aisle, and where are these spatial reasoning toys? Like in the traditional girls' aisle, you'll find a lot of really fun toys that help you with other things like hair, makeup, which helps in many different ways, like expressing creativity and also solving different types of problems. But we're not talking about those problems. We're talking about spatial reasoning. So most of the spatial reasoning toys, at least when I was growing up, were in the boys' aisle. There's, you know, the industry acknowledges this, and they're trying to move towards a direction of, you know, gender neutral spatial reasoning toys. But for a while, like their solution was, oh, the Legos, okay, Legos for girls. I got the solution. They're all pink.
I hate pink.
And then, like, you know, like they self-congratulate themselves on this great innovative idea.
Pink Legos.
Let's make it all pink.
No.
This is how we solve the gender problem, right? We'll just make it pink. We'll make
Oh,
you know, and I just feel like sometimes, I mean, that mindset is, the mentality is still around. You know, he was like, oh yeah, this you know, tool kit, I'm just going to make it pink, and therefore more females will buy it. They were surprised that didn't work.
wasn't quite the hit.
It wasn't the hit that they wanted it to be.
I just, yeah, that was very thought provoking. I hadn't heard it put that way, so it stood out to me when you shared it. Michele, I'm curious about what's going through your mind, and I know that we're likely going to go over a little bit here, just FYI, in our time, but just curious about what's on your mind about what Pamela shared.
Well, when I was growing up, we really didn't have a lot of toys like that. But around my neighborhood, we had a cow pasture across the street from us that the boys in the neighborhood played softball and baseball. So my dad played softball, and I wanted to too. So, you know, they didn't mind when I played softball. My dad didn't like when I played baseball with the guys. He was afraid I'd get hurt. But, you know, I just wanted to do what other people were doing. I really didn't, like you said, I didn't really see myself as a girl. I didn't see myself as a boy either. I just wanted to play softball or baseball, you know, and I think that's, now we call it gender neutral, but that's what it is. You just want to be a person, and you want to be able to give those opportunities to everybody, be it the girls or the guys, and I don't know, make it so that they could be interested. And it's not about making things pink or blue, because you'll turn off a lot of the girls that would be interested. You'll turn them off. You know?
Especially now, I think, you know, we've actually moved in such a beautiful direction in many ways. And to both of your point, that there are still some very stark limitations. Now, I remember when I was in the Girl Scouts growing up, and my brothers were in the Boy Scouts. I have 3 brothers. I'm the only girl, and they were doing, like, you know, leather bands for their wrists and archery and horseback riding and doing all these very interesting outdoor things. And I was learning to make tie-dye t-shirts and candles and brownies. And I was like, that doesn't seem like fun to me.
Yeah.
But that was, you know, 80s and Girl Scouts. A lot of the women that were in charge of Girl Scout troops at the time, they were, you know, stay-at-home moms. And this is likely part of what they like to do, or what they were taught they had to do or teach other girls. I didn't spend very much time in the Girl Scouts. I got out very quickly. But I think that's
funny, wasn't the Girl Scouts founded by a scientist, and it was like basically about getting more girls to be doing STEM? I think they're doing a revamp actually of their.
There's a huge revamp now, and actually I think they're also combined. Boy Scouts are now accepting girls in part of the program. So I'm not sure all the logistics here, but there's so many, the way that this I don't know, the last 10, 15, 20 years probably has shifted so much how we manage and how we educate and what we expose young people to. It's I think very promising. And at the same time, I think going back to what we talked about it earlier about authenticity, right? I know my best friend would love to have everything pink. That's her thing. She she had a poodle and wanted to have a little pink color and the bling and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't really get into. There's some pink that I like,
right,
utilitarian in my choices. And it's almost like an outfit. Like, how do you find an outfit that fits you, that works for whatever it is that you want to use the outfit for, and it looks good? There's a lot of stuff that looks good but doesn't fit quite well, or that it fits well but is not really functional for whatever it is that we want to. So I think the piece here about anything, whether it's toys, whether it's games, whether it's career, it's like, how do we find something that fulfills, that fits, looks good, and serves us and serves others, right? It's kind of a
it's the cowboy outfit. It's a cowboy.
The cowboy. Yes, that's it. Going back to that. So I'm curious, as we start to wind things down, what has this been like, being on a conversation, not quite strangers, with a not quite stranger, talking about some interesting things? I think interesting anyways. What's it been like for you guys?
Go ahead, Bev.
It's fun, just like it's exactly what I expected. I was like, oh, we're gonna go deep very quickly.
Oh, you expected that?
For me, I feel like there's more to the story, and so I'm curious and interested in continuing to learn more.
What surprised you guys the most about it?
For me, I think I had more to say than I thought I had.
No, what was it? Oh my gosh! was that established in this conversation?
Yeah, well, because you at least, like, for me, when I'm in the room with people who are more accomplished and, like, executive level people, they usually have more to say. And I love listening because I always want to hear the perspective. And it was just kind of like, oh, I actually do have something to say on this topic. I do. Let me.
Yeah. And a lot of topics. You have a Rolodex, Pamela. I don't think you call it that. Now you'll just, instead of rolling, you'll actually be able to swipe. But you got some. You got some.
Yeah.
Michele, what about for you? Any surprises?
Oh, no, I just think this is a great way, Valerie, in bringing people that are coming from two different backgrounds together, but in age groups, and it shows that we have a lot to be able to share with one another. And a lot of times, and even during this pandemic that we're in right now, we haven't had a more of a closed, kind of a closed basis of sharing things with people that we couldn't share, I guess. And so I think it's great. I love the opportunity to be able to meet you and to be able to share with you.
Well, I'm thrilled the two of you said yes to being on the podcast. I don't take for granted, and you obviously shared some things that were very personal, and Michele, even you're wanting to say the right thing or without whatever the most PC would be or the most diplomatic. So I appreciate you sharing those points too. The reason here to bring people together is, like I said earlier, is build a connection. I think we can build a connection with just about anybody. That's like my challenge to myself, is like, how can I connect with this person? And what would I need to listen for, or how would I need to interact or engage in order to make it happen? You guys are quite easy, right? Because you had the thread of being in industries that are male dominated, for example, or engineering and science and that sort of thing. But beyond that, I think some of the richness that you guys brought about your personal experiences or your philosophies, or, this idea of having these emotions and how would you like for people to feel in our presence? And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm curious, what questions, if you have an opportunity to have more conversation beyond this, what questions would you want to have asked or would you want to answer?
I'm curious for like Michele, just coming up in the male dominated world of that time. Was it something like your gender, something that the people just kept bringing up? I feel like right now, because diversity and inclusion and Me Too is all top of mind, people bring it up to me a lot. But I'm curious to see if while you were, you know, going through your career, is that something that was brought up a lot for you?
Yeah.
I want to be responsible that we may not have time to get into the question,
Oh,
but this would be
Yeah.
a great point of conversation for the two of you beyond the podcast.
Yeah. And the answer is yes. And we'll have to think about what the detail is on that. And it all varies based upon the situation. And we could talk about it.
Michele, what about for you? What questions are you left with that you'd like to ask Pamela?
Oh gosh. I want to know how you and your baby are going to be doing in a few weeks, a few months. It's exciting, and you can make it through. There are a lot of things that you haven't done before, but you'll figure it out, and it's an exciting time in your life. And I can't wait to hear how it goes.
I'll definitely send some updates.
Yay! Yes, please do. I know we may have a reunion show. Who knows? Very cool. Any and last question. What are you taking from this conversation? Like what are you walking away with?
Goodness.
I'm kind of reminded again to just revisit our authenticity conversation. We keep having this, Valerie. It's very important, you know, it's important to like revisit your purpose and the things that you've learned in the past, you know, year or months, and see if it's changed your, you know, change the direction.
Remind me, I'll send you a video. I'll send both of it to both of you by Sri Kumar Rao. Do you know him?
No.
He's a professor, I think at Columbia and I can't remember what other university. He has a really fascinating class, but I'll send you the link so that you can watch it. It has some really interesting things about this same topic. Michele, what about for you? What are you walking away with?
Well, I'd like, and I was very intrigued about being able to meet you, Pamela, because, you know, the people have changed, and women in the workforce have changed over the years. The situations have changed, and there have been improvements. And I was just curious to see, from your perspective, how you felt that happened. And there's more to that story, I'm sure, behind it. So I'm intrigued to learn more about it too.
So much. Well, there you go. It sounds like you're going to have to keep connecting. An hour podcast is not enough. It's just to whet the appetite. That's what it is, right? So I appreciate so much that the two of you said yes, and you shared all your stories and experiences that you were able to share. And then whatever continues after this, to please do so. And for anyone that's listening or watching this episode, two things. One, you should be subscribed if you want to get access to this episode and many others. Make sure you go to www.notquitestrangers.com so you do not miss a single one. And also there's some special invitations for people who subscribe to meet our guests. For example, we have quarterly reunions where we get all of our podcast guests together and you get a chance to interact with them one-on-one. Or not one-on-one, but in our groups. And then also opportunities to continue to expand your own world, because we do have some connection challenges that we share with our community to continue to express interest in other people, and also get to know yourself even better. So www.notquitestrangers.com to subscribe. Ladies, again, thank you so very much for being here today, for the time that you shared, and looking forward to hearing even more. And Pamela's going to send some baby pictures, apparently.
Absolutely.
Maybe dressed in a cowboy outfit.
Maybe I have to get one now.
To get one, yes. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
You've been listening to the podcast Not Quite Strangers. Be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite video or podcast platform. And for more information and content, go to notquitestrangers.com. See you next time.
Bye. Bye. Bye.